Let's see what are problems in topology that can affect computer animation. There are quite a lot of them. The first one that you might see a lot is the problem if your model have too high resolution. For example, if your model have too many vertices, it will affect because the model will also have too many edges and faces. It's not only the computational time, but will also affect the function or features within computer animation software. For example, if you have too dense mesh like this, when you try to wrap up the texture, if you would like to use UV mapping, animating, or further, it might cause problems or fall within the animation. The next problem is the type of the topology itself. If you remember, we talked about this before. In computer animation, your model can either have triangular-based topology or quad-based topology, but they are quite different. In the triangular-based topology, it means that your mesh consists of all triangles. If you consist of all triangles, it will help to speed up the computational time, which is very good for game, but it is not good for computer animation. Because in computer animation, normally in the studio, we have the software, we have the machine that can compute and have very big computational power. But for games that you try to push the computational load to the client machine, in that case, you really would like to save the computational power. But for computer animation, we don't care about that. The bad thing about the triangular-based topology is if you have triangular mesh and you try to bend it, somehow the sharp edges of the triangle will make the mesh unsmooth. Let's see this example. This model created by the triangular-based topology, like in the middle pictures, and it can cause the flaws or defect when you try to render it out. You can see that the picture on the left is the mesh, which is the raw. You can see that the sharp edges is quite clear, but once you try to smooth it out, like in the right picture, you still have this problem. Like this, you can see that there is a sharp edge point on the mesh, right? It affects on the raw model, and it also affects even you try to smooth it out. That's why in computer animation, we try to avoid the triangular-based topology. Not only that, in triangular-based topology also block the edge loops. If you remember the edge loops and edge ring, we try to use this a lot in order to find the loop around the mesh, and you will use it for later animation, scaling, changing size, and whatever. In this picture, you will see that I'm trying to select one edge, which is two vertices, and I try to use the edge loop or edge ring in order to select the whole loop. But with triangular-based topology, it will block me. I can select only two edges and that's it. So this is not good if you would like to really work for the large company because you have to edit it a lot. Then let's see the quad-based topology. Quad-based topology means the topology that consists of almost all rectangles. And this one is the best topology for computer animation. We consider it as clean mesh because with quad-based topology, we can apply a lot of tools in computer animation software, which is not only Blender, but also all softwares. The tools are, for example, subdivision surface, the loop cut and slice, those kind of things. That will work only in the quad-based topology. Not only that, for the quad-based topology, it also supports the smooth blending. So you can see from this example, because this one is just the normal plane using quad-based topology, but when you bend, because the edges are like parallel to each other, when you bend, it will not cause the sharp edge problem. And it's also the best topology for sculpting mode in any kind of software. The next topology that you should know is the n-gons. N-cons mean any mesh that consists of at least one polygon. For example, in this mesh, right? So the N-con is not good because in computer animation software, a lot of features and functions will not affect the N-cons. And also the N-cons itself does not support by edge loop and edge ring. So let's see in which situation that N-cons are okay in computer animation. N-cons will be okay in computer animation in several cases. The first one is if you have the flat surface that you have never moved in computer animation. For example, the top surface of a table, that should be fine. And then if you have N-cons in the hidden area, for example, inside the characters or inside some box, that should be fine for computer animation also. The last case is if you try to create N-cons, but you create it in order to be like the original model that you will retopology and have a new mesh to replace it. In that case, it should be fine also. So let's see what are some cases that N-cons are not okay. N-cons are not okay in several cases. For example, if you are going to send your model to other artists and they will not know if you have N-cons in there, so that will be a problem for them. Another thing is if you are going to export your model and use in other software. For example, if you are working in Blender for the model and if you are going to export to use in Maya, in that case there might be some problems during the transition, so you should avoid that. The next thing that N-cons will not be okay is if you are going to use the model that consists of N-cons and you are going to deform it, it will not be okay because the Blender software will not support the deformation of the N-con. And the last one is if you would like to apply the subdivision surface to the N-con, that is totally not okay because subsurd does not work with the N-con itself. For the suggestion, if you really need the model with that shape, you can try to separate N-con manually into several small rectangles, and in that case, your model will be fine. In the next video, let's see how could you use retopology within the Blender.